Good morning, Westside. This is your Zoom host this morning, Caroline. When signing into a Zoom worship service on a Sunday morning, you cannot put on your traditional yellow Westside name tag to be welcoming to others, but you can rename your screen so that it displays your full name. This is the new way to practice hospitality with everyone who is part of the online worship service. To change your screen name, if your hosts haven't already done it for you, look for the 3 white dots usually appearing in the upper right-hand corner of your Zoom window when you hover over it with your cursor or your mouse. Click the dots and a drop-down menu will appear. One of those options in the drop-down menu is Rename. Click that option and a box will pop up that displays the current name. And if it's not your full name or names, go ahead and change it and then click the Save button. If you have any difficulty at all, just post a chat message to one of the hosts or to everyone, just post who you are and the co-host will take care of it. They'll change it for you. Thank you for your hospitality this morning. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Welcome to worship with the community of Westside Unitarian Universalist Church, where compassion leads us to work for justice and equality. My name is Michael Munoz, and I am your worship leader this morning. I'm glad you are joining us for our virtual service today. It is my hope that this gathering will renew your sense of community and connection and nourish your heart, mind, and spirit. Our interim minister, Reverend Frida Gillespie, has the week off. Today's reflection is from ministerial aspirant Roddy Biggs. Roddy Biggs, pronouns he, they, is a Middle Tennessee State University student finishing their bachelor's degree in religious studies before pursuing seminary next fall. Roddy is currently a member of the First UU Church of Nashville. They are a worship associate, a lay minister on the pastoral care team, and a co-chair for the social justice ministries at the church. In addition to the work in their local congregation, Roddy is serving in an academic internship for the Unitarian Universalist Young Adult Revival Network, is on the board of directors for UU Mental Health Network, and works as a lay speaker on Sunday mornings whenever they have the opportunity to do so. Roddy has a passion for speaking on topics that have historically been left out for religious spaces, including topics of mental health challenges, queerness, and multicultural identities, and is planning to continue such vocation and advocacy as they continue their education and enter into a lifelong service in Unitarian Universalist communities. Thank you to our AV volunteers today, Caroline Nixon and co-host Cindy Fountain, and the Sarmientos, Rocio and Jonathan. Thank you, and a special thanks to Yuki Kumamoto for selecting and playing beautiful music throughout the service. At Westside, we are raising the next generation of Unitarian Universalists, and we want them to know that they are an important part of our community. Several years ago, we chose to be radically inclusive to adopt multi-generational worship, where our service includes our children of all ages. So welcome, children and youth. Westside is a community of many beliefs, genders, and sexualities, a community of diverse cultural, racial, and class backgrounds, a community of varied abilities and gifts. Some here find inspiration in the great books, others in the great outdoors, and others still in great conversations. Whoever you may be, we welcome you to bring your whole self into this community. If you are so moved, you can try out the chat feature on Zoom by typing in some words of welcome to both members and visitors who are joining us this morning. On behalf of this church community, I say to all, welcome. Today's order of service is a PDF. A link was provided via email and will also be posted in the chat for you to download. As always, please continue to watch your email inbox for updates on church programs and opportunities. I invite you to take a deep breath. And from wherever you are, settle into the sacred space that we have created together. Now let us worship together as we listen to this morning's prelude performed by Yuki Kumamoto.
Good morning. It is great to be with you virtually this morning. Our opening words come from the Reverend Christian Smith. Let us wake up, not from the Sunday morning exhaustion, from the wishes for a few more drowsy moments in bed. Let us wake up to this world we live in, to its beauty, to its wonder, and also to its tragedy and its pain. We must wake up to the reality that not all in our world have what we have, however much or little that is. We must wake up from the idea, or we must wake up to the idea that our wholeness, our lives are only as complete as the lives of those who are around us, of those who we are connected and tied to in this great interconnected web of which we are all a part. We must stay woke, in the words of our friends and colleagues involved in the Black Lives Matter movement, working every day for radical justice in our country. Let us wake up. Let us stay awake. Let us stay woke. And now, in this time, in this virtual space which we call community, come and let us worship together.
Our opening hymn this morning is Lift Every Voice, performed by Alicia Keys.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the is one. Let us march on to victory. Is one. Let us march on to victory.
The flaming chalice is our Unitarian Universalist symbol of both heritage of our past and the light of hope within this congregation today. Please light your chalice this morning as we light ours with the following words, offered by the Hungarian Unitarian Church in honor of the anniversary of the Edict of Torda. We light this chalice in remembrance of those who laid down the foundation of our communities in the spirit of freedom, love, and tolerance, to remember that true light will outshine darkness. Francis David, the founder of Hungarian Unitarian Church, said, "Faith is the gift of God. The true signs of faith are an inner purity of love and an honest life and good deeds. Love is the ultimate interpretation and completion of the law. According to Jesus, love is the plenitude of the law. Love is a royal commandment. Love is the true freedom which does not bear the bondage of fear. Love is the creative spirit of the world, the highest treasure of humankind." We loved it so much last week. We are keeping it in our repertoire. Our chalice lighting song is "Be the Light" by Leah Morris.
There is always a light when we are ready to see it. There is always a light when we are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night, to climb this hill, together we will. There is always a light in the dark. We are ready to see it. There is always a light in the dark. We are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night and be a gift. Together we will. There is always a light. There is always a light. We are ready to see it. There is always a light. There is always a light. We are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night and be a gift. Together we will. There is always light. There is always light. There is always light. There is always light. To see the light, to be the light, to shine the light in the dark of night and be a climb this hill. Together we will. There is always shine. There is always shine. There is always shine. There is always shine. Be the light.
I invite you to join me in reciting our affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. Our Time for All Ages today will be presented by Amanda Gorman by way of PBS Kids.
Writing poetry is my favorite way to use my own voice. This is a poem I wrote called Talking Gets Us There. It's normal to notice what makes us different, because what makes us different is what makes each of us so special. There's beauty in every type of face and in every type of freckle. From the curl of your hair to the color of your skin, no one is exactly the same, not even twins. But across time and place, people have been treated unfairly just because of their race. So heroes get into good trouble. They have to struggle for a long while, but when they win, it's worth every mile. People of color still experience racism today. So it's up to all of us to say enough is enough, to speak out with all our hearts. And that starts at home. It starts with asking questions about race when we're taught about it. Together, I know we can tackle racism. But first, we have to talk about it.
Watch your favorite shows anytime on the PBS Kids video app.
Today's joys and concerns will be shared by representative of Pastoral Care Team, Christina Sellers.
Good morning, everyone. As we share our joys with others, those joys are multiplied. When other hearts know our joy shines all the brighter. As we share our concerns, our community can offer its care. When other hearts know our sorrow, our burden becomes lighter. This is the time in our service when we offer witness and support for one another's journeys. Please post in the chat if you have a joy or concern you would like to share with everyone today, and those who will watch the recording later. Joys and concerns can be submitted at any time via email to pastoralcare@westsideuu.org or through the web form located on the Care and Support page of the church's website. Today we have a concern from Matt Sachs. He attended a community rally hosted by Hemphill No Se Vende in Caps Park yesterday. The concern is that the city is planning to rezone the Hemphill corridor near church against the wishes of many of longtime residents of the community who fear being pushed out of their neighborhood. To get involved or for more information, find Hemphill No Se Vende on Facebook or call 682-551-6482. And I will put that in, it'll be in the email that goes out this week if you did not get a chance to write that down. I have a joy from Glenda Hood. Thank you so much to the worship committee for all of their behind the scenes work to bring us the meaningful and joyous services. They have pulled together some fabulous speakers and services during some difficult COVID times. Kudos to all of you. Definitely. Okay, let's see here. In the chat this morning, we have a joy from Janelle Weaver. I talked to Reverend Frida this week and she is recovering and feeling well. She misses you all. We have from Amy Stubbs, a joy to be in community with the other LGBTQIA+. Okay, Martin, you gotta stay on the side, buddy. Folks at the virtual Creating Change conference over the past few days. From Kelly Flanagan, a joy for our team of pastoral care presenters. Yes, I'm going to give it a minute to see if anyone else is typing away. And while I wait, I just want to share a joy from my circle of friends as well. My friend's 6-year-old grandson was released from Cooks this week after over a week of battling multi-system inflammatory syndrome. He has recovered enough to go home, and we are so grateful for that. Maddie wants to share that her Nana and Papa got their COVID shot last week as well. From Diane Jones, thanks to the pastoral care team, Charlie's card was sweet and much appreciated. Okay, you're welcome, Diane.
I'm Dad. Where's Dad?
It's been a while since Martin's shown his face. All right, y'all. Thank you all for sharing those with us. It is good to share with one another as sharing draws our community closer together. Please know that our pastoral care associates are available to support you with deep listening and when needed through our InReach Fund for short-term financial support for members in need. We are here for you.
Thank you, Christina. This morning's centering song is 391, Voice Still and Strong. Following the centering song, Diane Austin will lead us in our meditation of shared compassion.
Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still will remain singing. Calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing.
On the wings of this music, I invite you to join me in a time of centering. Each week here at Westside, we open our hearts to those in our community who know both joys and challenges, and to all suffering beings. I will begin with a brief introduction before we move into a time for silent reflection. At that point, I will ring the bell to signal the start of the time for your own meditation, prayer, or reflection, and I will ring the bell again at the end. I invite you to close your eyes and to check that your feet are grounded on the floor, that your spine is tall but not stiff as I begin. Spirit of life and love and hope, let our hearts be full of love and excitement as we share in the joys among this community. And let our spirits reach out in compassion to all who know sorrow as well, offering a loving presence to those in pain, whether spoken or too painful to share. Remind us of our connection to each other, and may that connection bring us great peace. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.
Westside has been a member of South Central Alliance of Churches, or SCAC, since moving to South Central area of Fort Worth. SCAC is a social service agency that provides rent and utility assistance to our neighbors in our and neighborhood zip codes that have experienced an unexpected crisis such as transportation breakdowns, illness, house or apartment fire, caring for grandchildren, or job loss. During the pandemic, SCAC singles source of funds for direct aid are donations from its 6 member churches. As you can imagine, there's more need than available funds, and the Alliance finds itself turning down eligible clients every month. Please keep our neighbors warm, clean, from experiencing homelessness by making a donation of any amount. If you use the Give Plus app, please select Service Project, Fund, and all funds collected in January for this designated fund will be forwarded to SCAC. Thank you for your generosity while you enjoy this original offering from Roddy's friends, Tom Steinman, entitled Find a Way, dedicated to the memory of John Lewis.
When will we find a way? John Lewis believes we can change the world every day. 2 steps forward, then don't turn back. Tear down each border of brown, white, and black. Imaginary walls won't hold us back. When will we live in peace? John Lewis believes we're one family in the beloved world. No more stalling, face up to the fact. We're here one calling to brown, white, and black. This won't wait for Jesus coming back. Find a way, get into trouble. Find a way to the beloved world. Change the world today. We're one people and one love. Imaginary walls all fade away. We don't have to hate those we oppose. We'll take the road John Lewis chose. He was beaten, he was broken, but he rose. He showed what we're standing for. When will we see love in action? John Lewis believes that love is found in every heart. Feel the power we now embrace. With every hour we redefine our age. We'll build a world where we all find a way. Find a way, get into trouble. Find a way to the beloved world. Change the world today. We're one people and one love. John Lewis believed we can change the world, find a way, the way of love. Find a way, faith, hope, and love. We're still here, MLK. The greatest of these is love. John Lewis believed we can change the world. We all create the beloved world. Find a way.
Thanks, Roddy, for sharing that. And thank you for your generosity. We have a treat this morning. We have a second Time for All Ages that includes some important UU history. We will hear from Jennifer Hackett, another friend of Roddy's, and a candidate for ministry, and a student intern at the congregation in Eugene, Oregon. After Jennifer's presentation, we will turn our attention to our guest speaker, Roddy Biggs, for his reflection entitled, Wake Up to Racism, Pass the 8th.
Once upon a time, there were two faith traditions, the Unitarians and the Universalists. Both had been around for hundreds of years. Each understood the importance of adapting to change so that they could continue to thrive. And they talked about getting together to become one stronger faith tradition together. They talked about this for decades. Some members were unsure about the move and about adjusting to those changes. The Unitarians and the Universalists got together year after year and said, our values are in alignment and each of us is going to be better with the other one. But then they didn't make any changes. So finally, in the 1950s, about 60 years after they started talking about merging in earnest, the youth of each organization said, we're really ready to start our new lives with our new church, and we are getting on with it already. And the youth voted, and they merged. The youth were the leaders of the faith, calling others into action with them. 10 years later, the rest of the association finally merged as well. And that was in 1961. Over the next 60 years, the Unitarian Universalist Church has changed in many ways, including different changes to the principles along the way, the principles that embody our values and help guide us in our faith. Paula Cole Jones, Director of Racial and Social Justice in her region of the UUA, began to talk with BIPOC people about their needs in our faith. BIPOC is an abbreviation standing for Black, Indigenous, people of color. She talked with BIPOC folks about creating a new principle that addresses the needs of BIPOC specifically. Over the course of the last 4 years since she asked the UUA to incorporate the 8th principle into our official bylaws nationwide, we've been learning more and more about why that is important. Culminating in national events this summer, such as the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, among many, many other BIPOC lives needlessly lost. As a country, we've been sort of lifting up the rug to see what's been stuck underneath there since the civil rights movement. And we found a pretty big lump under the rug. Even in Unitarian Universalism, we've not addressed the lump under the rug very well. In the last 60 years, we've tried several times to put our faith into action with regard to ensuring that BIPOC have a place and a voice in our faith. There have been lots of stops and starts with regard to our commitment to this process as a faith. Which brings us to our principles. We are a part of an association of congregations, or the UUA. We currently have 7 principles to which the member congregations have agreed. It's been several years now since Paula Cole Jones and friends asked that the 8th principle be adopted. It is one that specifically says that we as a church do intentional and continual work to ensure that racism continues to be broken down. Lots of churches in the Association of Congregations like ours have decided to make BIPOC folks a priority and have adopted the 8th principle. Recently, our country had an election. Each person, each town, each state voted for our new president. Well, our congregation is soon to have a vote too. Our church, like many, many other churches across the country, has decided to put it to a vote here at home for 2 reasons. First, because it's important to us to make sure that every person feels like a full and participating member. Second, holding this vote shows all of the other churches in the association that they don't have to wait to hold ourselves accountable to stopping racism. They too can start right now. We can be the leaders. What does that look like for us? Well, we already have our Black Lives Matter banner, and it is important for us to show our church community and our city community that we care about Black lives. But it's more than a banner. It includes things like intentionally checking in when we gather to make sure we've included all marginalized perspectives, or people who have felt left out, people who have been left out. It's about choosing BIPOC speakers when we can. It's starting conversations such as, what does our church want to do about reparations, and which relationships might need that kind of repairing? It's about doing lots of things we haven't even imagined yet. When we do the work of the 8th principle, we are setting the table that has a place for everyone. And we're leaving seats open for people who haven't even discovered us yet. We want to make sure that everyone can look at that table and see that there is a place for themselves. Come and set the table for everyone with us. There is a place for you too.
Thank you again for having me this morning. For those of you who joined in a little bit after the introduction, my name is Roddy Biggs. I use he and they pronouns, and I am an aspirant for UU Ministry. I'll be starting seminary in the fall and am thankful for the opportunity to worship here with you this morning. My congregation is the First UU Church of Nashville, and as Jennifer just mentioned, our congregation decided to put the 8th principle to a vote, which I am pleased to say resulted in the congregation unanimously voting to adopt and add the 8th principle to our list of principles, doing so alongside about 30 other congregations in hopes that the pressure will be felt by the UUA, and they too will add it to our national list of principles. And with that, it is time that all white UUs wake up to the reality of racism. In fact, it is past time. Our congregations say they value the inherent worth and dignity of every person. They say they agree to work for justice, equity, and compassion. But what about myself and people darker than me? Where is our worth? Where is our dignity? Do we not get to know what justice looks like? Do we not get to feel compassionate love? Sadly, I don't think so. At least, not yet. For my BIPOC siblings of faith and me, it seems that we are always journeying on a path that was never paved nor intended for us to journey. We have been promised greatness, and we have stood by and waited for decades. We have waited. When needed, we have taken to the streets to demand and to fight for our freedoms, for our worth, and for our dignity, only to be met with more promises, promises that you will do better, promises that change will come. Sadly, to make promises is far too easy, and to make good on promises seems far too hard. And yet, here we are, on this path, on this journey, wondering where we belong, if we belong, and if we belong, how we might belong, waiting for promises made to be fulfilled. Here we are, people of color, BIPOC siblings of faith, and many of us still call ourselves Unitarian Universalist. In 2013, tired of waiting for change, and after working with congregations on racism issues for over 15 years, Paula Cole Jones realized that a person could believe that they are being a good UU and following the 7 principles without ever thinking about or dealing with racism and other oppressions at systematic levels. Feeling the need for change, she met with others, and the 8th principle was drafted. This principle came from the feeling that we need something to renew our commitment to this work, to hold ourselves accountable, and to fulfill the potential of our existing principles to make good on the promises that we have made. The language crafted to achieve such accountable commitment reads, "We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying toward spiritual wholeness by working to build diverse, multicultural, beloved communities by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions." And my, do we have our work cut out for us to make sure that this is a reality and not just another broken promise made. For me, as a queer UU person of color, and as someone who is actively pursuing a ministerial calling in my beloved faith, the proposed 8th principle speaks to me. Not to say that the 7 other principles of our faith don't, because they do. However, this one especially does, as my identity and the identities of those like me are tied up and are explicitly centered within it. And it says something about who we are as a faith, as a community, and who we wish to be moving forward. To recognize that as a faith community, we must journey towards spiritual wholeness for all of us, and not just our predominantly white congregations, but all of us, is a significant first step towards healing the physical, emotional, and spiritual pain and suffering caused by racism for our BIPOC siblings of faith. To commit to building a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism is something that we've been striving towards since the Civil Rights Movement and the life of MLK. But such a reality, such a diverse, multicultural, beloved community has not yet been realized. As white UUs, alongside others, are all guilty of racism and of benefiting from white privilege. Such a privilege that only backs up what Paula Cole Jones realized, being that a good white UU can go about their daily lives without ever really thinking about their race or systems of ongoing racism, if they wanted to, that is. But in doing so, what fails to happen is the building of a diverse, multicultural, beloved community. Doing so also fails to accountably dismantle racism, both in ourselves and our institutions. We fail to notice the oppressions that people are crying out for help with. If seeing the reality of a fully built, imagined, beloved community where all people know they have inherent worth, inherent dignity, where they know they are fully deserving of compassion, and where they experience justice and equity, is what we as Unitarian Universalists strive to achieve, that we must work even harder to make it so. We must work to right the wrongs of 400 years in the making. We must dismantle racism. We must dismantle homophobia, xenophobia, and countless other forms of oppression in our communities, in our institutions, and in our society. Doing so is not going to be an easy step. It is not something that we can do overnight, but we have to do something. We must start somewhere, and somewhere is passing the eighth principle. Joining with congregations all across the country who have done so. Living the eighth principle along with our 7 other principles as we work to make sure that the dreams of millions, the dreams of BIPOC siblings of faith, and the long overdue promises that have been made become that of a reality. Friends, there is much work to be done. As I said, it will not be an easy journey, but it's one that is past time to happen. It is one that I challenge you, that I challenge Westside Unitarian Universalist Church to get on with, to do the work that must be done. And I challenge you, this community, this congregation, to not only consider passing the eighth principle, but to pass it unanimously, to demand that promises are fulfilled, and to do the work of reparation of 400 years of injustice, of slavery, of BIPOC individuals feeling like they do not belong in this nation. There is work to be done. Will you make it so? Blessed be, and amen.
Our closing hymn this morning is Building a New Way, written by Martha Stanford and performed by Dr. Glenn Thomas Rideout. The lyrics are included so you can sing along.
The development right next to down, and so we're gonna make that.
We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, the world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way.
Before I share our closing words this morning, I want to answer one question I saw in the chat, and then I have an invitation for you all. So to answer the question as to how many congregations at this point have adopted and passed the 8th principle, it is around 35. The hope is that by General Assembly in June of this year, that number will be around 60 or more. And it is something that, as I said, is long overdue that we do. And my ask is that you all stick around for our virtual coffee hour after the benediction and after our chalice extinguishing. I plan to do my best to spend about 5 to 10 minutes in each of the breakout rooms to get to know you and this community a little bit better. It has been a joy, a pleasure, and an honor to lead you in worship this morning. And with that, our closing words come from the book Lifting Our Voices, Readings in the Living Tradition. And they are written by Anne Frank. I can feel the suffering of millions, and yet if I look into the heavens and I think of all that will come right, and the cruelty that too will end, and the peace and tranquility that will return again. In the meantime, I must uphold my ideals, for perhaps the time will come when I shall be able to carry them out. Friends, this service is over, but may your service continue on, renewed, bearing witness to all that exists on the margins.
You may extinguish your chalice and join me in our congregational closing. Let us go in peace, believe in peace,